Thunder Brigade. Published by Interactive Magic and developed by Blue Moon Interactive, it was released in December 28, 1998. Blue Moon are a budget game developer from Estonia, who are active from 1986 till today presumably, although their website hasn't been updated since 2000. Other than writing games, Blue Moon also made game engines and internet protocols and other stuff I won't pretend to understand. Thunder Brigade was built on Blue Moon's own engine, called Condor 3D. They made this for the game called Art of Flying, but this game was never made. The publisher at the time wasn't interested in making more 3D flight games, which are already saturating the market. Instead they wanted something a bit more combat-y, so they made 3 games for them, the first being Air Offensive, an arcade flight combat sim. The second was Mars, a reworked version of the game engine allowing for the display of 3D underground caves, a gameplay similar to Descent, and the third game was Thunder Brigade. Thunder Brigade is a first-person 3D action arcade shooting hover tank game. Think Terminal Velocity meets M1 Tank Platoon, with the simplistic arcade controls and simple missions and fun action that makes it unoffensive for newcomers, unlike many flight sims and tank sims of the time. The late 90s and 2000s were obsessed with simulation, making games as close to life as possible, to the point where some flight sims had so many buttons in the game that there weren't enough for them on your keyboard. But then again, PCs were the hardcore market, and kids could go play their consoles if they wanted fast-paced arcade action fun. Leave the hardcore to PC fans. However, Thunder Brigade, along with games like Terminal Velocity, broke the mold and showed people it was okay to be confused if a game had more than 4 buttons. I got my copy of Thunder Brigade originally in the summer of 1999 while on holiday with my dad in Yorkshire. On holiday we bought my PC to upgrade it as it got slow. It was upgraded with the Cyrix M2 233MHz CPU and put an extra 32MB of RAM, both of which I still have. I thought at the time the PC would play anything, so one day at Asda I saw the game and asked Dad if we could try it on my new PC that had been recently upgraded. Needless to say, it didn't run. It ran at about 2 to 3 frames per second, and I think culminated in the death of that PC via overheating of the CPU and GPU, as I know both died at one point or another, the GPU being only a 512 kilobyte thing. I lost and forgot about the game after that. Many years passed, I couldn't remember what it was called, although I vividly remember playing it. I suddenly spied the box image on Google Image Search one time while looking for it, and immediately knew it was the game that I had when I was a child, as the box art captured me in the same way it did way back in 1999. I got my copy from eBay from around £3. It's a double edition coming with the game Spearhead, which I will review at a later date. This isn't the same box I had as a child, but it does the job, and if I see the big box one on eBay at some point, I will snap it up. Launching the game gets you a series of intros and a short cutscene explaining some of the background of the game, but honestly I couldn't care less. The story feels like a bit of an afterthought, and the lack of characters or faces for the pilots, and the fact we're all in tanks, removes the element of humans in the story. The story in brief isn't an untold one before. It's a simple story of uprisings and rebellions on a far off distant colony, and what thought to be a group of rowdy miners and farmers turns out to be an effective fighting force, and has the actual military on the back foot for now. After the intros, my game went a bit strange and wouldn't work. The audio went a bit strange, and even the main menu was a bit laggy. I first installed this game on a period specific machine, much like the one I had of the day. It has a 233 Cyrix CPU and 32MB of RAM. Unlike the PC I had at the time, it has an S3 Trio boasting 2MB of video RAM and a 3DFX Voodoo 1 3D card, making it a hell of a lot better than the one I had way back in 1999. The game refused to run, and I had to instead play it on my XP machine, which has way more than enough power to run the game. But problems like jittery music and poor frame rates even in the menus, I thought this was possibly a bug with the game, and the game was never meant to run well. However, after 2 or 3 minutes of actual gameplay, something clicked and the game ran fine for most of the time, except for the odd audio glitch. The game has a very good tutorial mission that briefly explains the controls. The controls are simple, like I said earlier, and easy to learn, and it doesn't take long. The next mode is instant action, which throws you into a random mission or map, and seems kind of pointless. The third mode is campaign mode. This is where you get to create a pilot and are given a series of missions to play through. Starting as a lowly cadet, your simple missions are straightforward, and the first one, for example, is clear up after an assault that's already been through. On returning to base, however, you are given a set of additional objectives to complete. Other than giving your pilot more kills and maybe a higher rank, I'm not sure what these bonuses grant you, but they're usually good fun and involve aiding allied forces or defending a position. Gameplay feels sick and very well polished. It's not like driving a tank or flying a plane, but it's somewhere between a hovercraft and a helicopter. This enables you to pull quick reversal manoeuvres, sliding your tank round, jamming it in reverse and firing on pursuing enemies, or turning in wide arcs and firing at enemies that are attempting to flank you or your allies. The arcade fast-paced action and target-rich environment, coupled with good controls, make it for an enjoyable playing experience. The enemy and friendly AI aren't what you'd call geniuses, but neither would you call them brainless. They hide upon hills and pursue allies, and retreat when wounded. Being that there are no obstacles in Thunder Brigade, pathfinding is not a problem, and allied troops in missions travel the shortest route and always at full throttle, so there's no waiting for slow friendlies. The game engine I think is really well done. It has a great texture feel to it, which was rare for 1999, where most games would rely on flat textures with the odd 3D triangular hill. Thunder Brigade goes beyond and almost looks like a 3D wave visualization from a CD player at the time. The music in Thunder Brigade is what you'd usually expect from the 90s, techno beats and bold and unvaried, but suited to the arcade feel of the game. However, after 20 minutes of it, it begins to wear. The rest of the audio is okay with decent sound effects and passable voice acting for the mission briefings. The audio does falter quite a bit. On my game, causing bad feedback, but maybe that's the drivers for my PC. The music is also very loud, drowning out anything else on the game, but I haven't found a way of turning just the music down yet, just off. The graphics are okay for the age of the game and hold up well today. They have a nice enough high level of detail, especially in the higher settings. The draw distance too is good. On modern PCs, or modern-ish, it's certainly not what I remember from the hardware at the time. But with the complicated terrain map and the texture that's laid over the top of it leaves the world feeling a touch muddy and bland. But where you think about how advanced this mapping is, especially for being a budget title from a little known developer, it is acceptable. Overall, I believe Thunder Brigade to be a noteworthy title that's been forgotten in the midst of the golden era of PC gaming. It's exactly what I would have wanted from a sci-fi tank/flight sim in the day, with its right balance of fast-paced arcade action, good missions and generic storytelling. The graphics are okay, and for the time it would have been totally average. The music is a touch bland, but passable also. I give overall Thunder Brigade 7 out of 10 and recommend you pick up a copy from eBay, seeing that it's so cheap. It's not yet on GOG.com, and I'm not sure if it will run on more modern hardware. It has a little bit of trouble on 32-bit Windows XP, but I shall later test it on Windows 95 and 98 for more period-correct hardware. Okay, so that's it from me, from Chris, the Super Game Super Show. That was the new way I thought I'd try recording a review. Let me know if it was bad or good, and I'll see you next time. I just knocked everything off the desk.